Hey everybody, I'm Tom Vasel, and welcome back to me traveling through the largest website on board game there is, BoardGameGeek.com, going through their top 100 games and telling you what I think of those games and comparing it to the last time I did this, which was 2 years ago. So without further ado, we're going to jump today into numbers 80 through 71. So let's go right to number 80, which is Agricola Revised Edition. Now, this is one of the things I'm not too keen on with Board Game Geek, and I'm not going to talk a whole lot about Agricola here because, simply put, this is the second edition of Agricola, and the first edition is also in the top 100. It's coming up later on. And so I guess I look here and go, 101 is Legendary Encounters. There. Now, I still got 100 games on the list. Okay, but anyhow, I get why people like Agricola. We'll talk more about this one later. Then we're going to jump to number 79, which is Architects of the West Kingdom. So this is the second game here from Shem Phillips and from his company, Garfield Games. And this one here, another worker placement game. The last one we talked about was Raiders of the North Sea. This one was not on the list last time, just popped on because it just came out last year. In this one, you place workers, and the more workers that you have in an area, the better the action's going to be for you. Again, using the artwork that people really like. But you can also take groups of people's workers and send them off to prison, where they then have to be rescued. Great components, great artwork, and very simple and fun to play. There's a lot of cool aspects to this, where you build buildings and stuff. The next one, Paladins of the West Kingdom, is not on the list yet, but I would not be surprised if that one breaks into the top 100 next year. All right, I think the next game is possibly the oldest game in the top 100. It was 58 last time. This one has been out for many years, and this one is Sherlock Holmes Consulting Detective, The Thames Murders and Other Cases. It came out in 1981. So that makes this one 39 years old. This one is dropping a bit, and I suspect it's going to drop more because people like the idea of solving a mystery. In this one, you have a map, you have newspapers, you have different things that you go through and look at. The problem that this game has is that there's other games. Chronicles of Crimes is really close to breaking into the top 100. That does something very similar to this. But this one is still the classic. There are many different versions of it. This is just one of the ones. This is the one that's ranked the highest, and some people really enjoy this one. I thought it was okay. There's a lot of messing around, and I found Sherlock Holmes to be insufferable at the end of it because you get through and he's like, well, hello, you should have solved it faster by randomly going to places that I went to. Thanks, Sherlock Holmes. The next one was 51 last time, dropped down to 77, and that's Roll for the Galaxy. So Roll for the Galaxy, which is like Race for the Galaxy, but with dice. Now, there's a lot of cool components in this game, and it's not just Race for the Galaxy with dice. In this game, you roll dice and then use those dice, and you're trying to get dice of different types. There's a ton of dice that come in this game, and you use these dice to get symbols and then pick the action based on whatever you roll. So I might roll a lot of one action, and that's not necessarily the action that I want to use that particular turn, but I might do it anyway because I've rolled a lot of dice for it. There's a lot of cool aspects to this game, and while I like Race better myself, I certainly will gladly play this one anytime. Roll for the Galaxy, game that a lot of people enjoy. So number 77. Alrighty, number 76, which was 60 last time, and that is Russian Railroads. Now, Russian Railroads is a game that surprises me a bit that it's in the top 100. Not because I don't think it's a good game, I really do, because I never hear anyone talk about this or play it. And I think that part of the reason for that is that it's very difficult to get. This is a worker placement game, and in this game you have a board that, like the one that's shown here, and you're moving these rail pieces on it. First you move the black, then you move a gray, then a brown, then a tan, then a white, and the farther you move them on each of these three tracks is going to score you points. And you do that by placing workers on a bigger player board, and it is super mathy. Every turn in this game, you get points based on how far you moved your tracks up. Various different special things will happen. There's multiple paths to victory. And I finally won a game of this since last we spoke about it. But for the most part, I usually get whooped all around the table on this game. It is really crunchy, really entertaining, and doesn't feel like a railroad at all. But I do like it a lot. That's Russian Railroads. Number 70, where are we at? Number 75. This one, actually, I talk about how these things change. I put this list together last night of me recording this, and this one moved up, and I expect to see this one continue to move up, and that is Underwater Cities. Underwater Cities, which came out at the end of 2018, is a worker placement game in which you're placing these different submarines down and then building a tableau of cards in front of you. It's very similar to games like Race for the Galaxy, Terraforming Mars, and this tableau building, but this one is one of the deepest ones that there is out there. There's a lot of cards, a lot of special abilities, a lot of different things going on, and you're eventually trying to build this big underwater city in front of yourself, including these little plastic domes. So that's some pretty neat pieces, although they just came out with a second edition of it and an expansion with recessed boards that make the game just look a lot nicer overall. So I think this is a really cool game. The theme is neat, and Vladimir Suchy, who's the designer of it, just has made some very fantastic things, and this is probably going to end up being his highest rated game. It's a lot of fun, but be warned, it is a very crunchy, long, deep affair. Alrighty, jumping now down to number 74. This one's new to the list, although not new, it just keeps moving up, and that's Aeon's End. Came out in 2016. Now they continually, it seems like almost on the dot, every so often have a Kickstarter for another version of this. And in fact, they made a legacy version of this game. Aeon's End is a deck builder where you are fighting against some major, huge bad guy, and you're all working together, there's one of the bad guys, trying to cast spells and figure out the right way to beat this fantastically horrific, like that big demon on the cover himself. You know, if you had asked me, would this game make the top 100, I would not have thought so after my first play of it. I thought it's a good game. But it seems to have developed a pretty strong cult following. It seems to have people who really enjoy it, and it obviously sells well enough to continue to have new edition after edition. I'm going to have to go back and revisit this one at some point. I like it, just I did not, again, think it would make the top 100. Number 73, also new to the list. This one does not surprise me because you talk about cult followings, this one is definitely there, and that is Too Many Bones. This came out originally in 2017, and it has, as you can see, 4,100 ratings, which is pretty low for a lot of the games on the top 100. But this game, which has custom dice, it is a dungeon crawl of sorts, an adventure game of sorts, where you will play through a series of tactical battles using these different characters, and each character has their own player mat and has their own group of dice. Look at all those dice in there, and they're extremely different. You are going to, one person has potions, and that can be bombs or healing that they're going to be throwing. Another person is just kind of a warrior. They go up and fight, and here's the characters from the base game. And if you look there, the board of the game, which is a bunch of X's and arrows, and you move these poker chip characters around. Poker chips are hit points. Does not look like much. This game does not look like much, but it offers a pretty in-depth battle that I think even people who aren't big fans of chuck dice and see who wins will enjoy just because of the way this game plays out. Number 72 was 63 2 years ago, and that's Troyes. Or Troyes, if you want to call it that. Now, this game just recently had a direct successor. Black Angel came out. But in this game, where you will be rolling dice and building stuff, actually, I'm kind of a little lost on the theme. This is one of those games that when I played Black Angel, I said, oh yeah, I kind of remember this from Troyes, but it's been a long time. When I first played this game, I hated it. I was not a fan of this one at all. Especially because this negative things can happen to the players. I feel like they're a little bit more manageable in the sequel, and it also, another reason I wasn't a big fan of this one, because it looks boring as all get out. That being said, a lot of people are big fans of it, and it has some really cool dice, and let's move on. Number 71 was 49 last time. This game, I think, is one of the main reasons the craze of pentominoes, I think, and that's Patchwork. Patchwork, a two-player game from Uwe Rosenberg, who is no stranger to the top 100 games. This is not the last time you'll hear his name. But in Patchwork, each person is trying to build their own little patchwork quilt, complete with buttons, by moving pieces around in a circle and taking these pieces then and putting them onto their quilt. This is the scoring thing here in the middle, but you're trying to, there's a quilt there, you're trying to place these in there Tetris style and cover as many spaces as you possibly can, and also earn buttons, which is a currency which will allow you to get more tiles. There's a lot of cool things to this game. I thought it was fine, not like the greatest thing ever. It's a cool two-player game, but I am definitely in a minority. A lot of people really, really enjoy this one, so still doing well. And that looks like we've come to the end of another 10 games here. So we're moving on up. Some more interesting games. It's interesting to see how many new ones were in this particular category. 5 games that weren't there 2 years ago. We're about to move on into the 60s next time. So I'll see you in a bit. Until then, I'm Tom Vasel. We've been going through the Board Game Geek Top 100. Thanks for watching.